Oh my god, I could do it. Holy shit, come on, babe.
God damn it. What is up, hustlers? Welcome back to another episode of the 5 o'clock Hustle podcast. This is episode number 27, and it was so much fun. But before I tell you about it, I have a quick announcement to make. We're going to be in Oakland, California on June 22nd for HustleCon. That's right, the 5 o'clock Hustle is going to HustleCon, and we couldn't be more excited. You might remember HustleCon from one of our episodes with Grace Lancaster. She is an amazing event coordinator from The Hustle, which is an incredible newsletter, and I hope you guys check it out. If you already have tickets to the show and you see us at the event, please come say hi. We'd love to meet you. If you don't have tickets yet, it's not too late, but the longer you wait, the more expensive they're going to become. If you're on the fence, just take a second and check out the speaker list. Trust me, it's going to be one epic event. You can go to thehustle.co for more details. Seriously, go and check it out. Okay, we spoke with our very good friend, Karla Ticas. Karla is an amazing female entrepreneur. Scratch that. She's simply an amazing, show-stopping, one-of-a-kind entrepreneur, and we are so honored to have had her on the show. Karla, who has a passion for photography, has turned what most people see as a hobby into a thriving, one-stop shop creative agency. She is a highly driven creative entrepreneur where people have sought out her work all over the world, and today we have an incredible conversation with her, diving deep into topics such as how to thrive as a female entrepreneur, how to use your internal network to start a business, why to draw a line in between our business and our personal lives. There is so much incredible value in this episode, and I can't wait for you to hear it. She even gives us some practical tips on how to grow your Instagram following at the end, so make sure you listen all the way through. Perfect. Okay, let's get this show started, but please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. Keep hustling, everybody, and Dre, start the show.
5 o'clock hustle. 5 o'clock hustle, bro. 5 o'clock, 5 to 8, 5 to 12, 5 to 3 until you get back up the next morning.
Every week I got a new idea.
And that's what it always is, right? It's crazy. 5 o'clock.
I was doing that in 2005, but everybody thought it was weird.
5 o'clock. Thus, the side hustle was created. 5 o'clock hustle podcast.
Yeah, man, having so much fun. And 3, 2.
You messed it up. Okay, so I don't want to do it today. You do it, Dre. Dre, I'm gonna put the pressure on you because
Don't put it on me. You gotta keep the consistency, dude.
No, we're all the same.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the 5 o'clock hustle. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dean Scott, joined with Chris List. That's Chris.
Right. Chris List here and Mr.
Draylon Dion Curtis.
We got a special guest for you today, everyone. We have the beautiful, talented Karla Stein coming at us. Karla's a close friend of ours, and she's also an up-and-coming, well, not even up-and-coming anymore. I'd say you're pretty established at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I meant up-and-coming in the sense that now everyone's going to know your name.
Can I just ask something?
Yes.
Are you going by Karla Stein or are you doing Karla Ticas Stein?
Okay.
So it's been, that's a really good question. I had a long, lengthy discussion with my husband about that. So professionally, I'm still Karla Ticas.
Okay.
And personally, I'm Karla Stein. And it was really hard signing my name away. But
Yeah.
you can go by Karla Stein. That'll be interesting. Well, I guess no. Professionally, I'm Karla Ticas.
Karla
Let's stick it in.
Ticas.
There you go, Karla Ticas.
Karla Ticas in the building.
So guess what? All of our audience just got to meet the personal Karla, and now let's transition to the professional Karla.
Well, I think it's important for people to know that her husband is one of our best friends in the world.
Friend of the 5-0 family.
That's right. So, we just came back from your wedding a few months ago. We were all in the wedding party.
How long ago was that? That was
2 months ago.
It was only
5 months ago.
5 months ago. That's a few. That's in my mind. That's a few.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Last weekend.
It does feel like last weekend.
So how has the first 5 months of marriage been?
It's been really great. We started off the year with a bang. We found a new house. We went on our honeymoon, and now we're transitioning to finding a balance without too many ups and downs. So it's been really fun getting to know him on a chill level, because I think prior to our wedding, it was engagement season and we had a lot of family drama and tons of ups and downs. But now it's
planning and all that.
Whoa. I thought we were talking to Karla Ticas on the line. How has the business been since the wedding?
We got to catch up with our girl, though, man. We got to make this natural conversation.
It works hand in hand because I couldn't be able to do my business anymore if I didn't have that backbone. So it's a nice little balance.
Of course.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so important especially for entrepreneurs to have that kind of relationship with their spouse, with any kind of companion that they have, even friends, really, to have everybody on board with what you're doing and to really be there to support you. And that's awesome that you guys found each other. That's an amazing thing, and especially since you're saying that, he's there to support you.
Yeah, it's really nice because I think most people don't understand the work hours and the loss of commitment that I have to sacrifice a lot of my personal time for in order to commit to my business. So he's quite understanding, and he is an equally challenging job himself. So we're both working with each other on that.
For sure. So the one thing we haven't actually said is what you do. Can you explain to our audience what it is you do?
So it's a loaded question. I do a little bit of everything. I'm a photographer, creative director, art director. I do web and graphic work. I have a creative agency called Cotillion. And from that, we help beauty, lifestyle, and fashion brands kind of launch their businesses. And if it's not their businesses, it's a new collection or a new product. So I work hand in hand with a lot of creative people. And what I do is a little of everything. You name it, I've done it. I started off in the industry as an assistant to a celebrity makeup artist when I was in high school. And that's when the entertainment bug hit me. And I knew that I needed to be a part of this world one way or another. So after high school, I signed my life away to student loans. And I went to photo school for about 3.5 years. And as a whim, I literally just followed my ex-boyfriend out there. He wanted to be a director. And I was like, okay, well, then I'll do photography. And we both moved to Santa Barbara and studied school. And it was lots of ups and downs, trying to learn and balance what this industry means to someone and how to make a profit from it, because I think that's the biggest thing. And I moved back to Los Angeles after Santa Barbara, and I started my business with the ground running.
Now, let me stop you really quickly. When it comes to your education, I always find it interesting for people who went to a creative, went to school for a creative, to study a creative profession. Yeah,
fashion, art.
Just like those things, fashion, art, whatever it is. Yeah. Did they prepare you for the business part, or was it like primarily just the actual creative aspect?
A majority of it was purely creative, learning how to develop our creative minds, learning how to put our thoughts into paper or photo. Very little of it was actually business. A majority of my education came with experience. So I learned a lot of what I do now after I graduated school. And it wasn't the school's fault. I think that I paid for an education to develop my creative mind. And I did that very well. And I got a chance to explore what most people don't get to do. And that's thinking with my right side of my brain and not my left brain. But at the end of my education, our school was bought out by like a corporation. So they made a few business classes mandatory. So I did take a few classes on marketing and business, but they definitely didn't prepare us the way that I think now people should be prepared, because there are a lot of questions about our industry. A majority of them is like, how do you make your money? How do you find your clients? All the logistical questions, they come way more than the creative questions when I'm talking to someone that's looking for advice. So I think creative schools do a great job at keeping that open mind for most of their students, but I think there needs to be a little bit of a balance. But I also think if you think too much with your left brain while you're in an education mode, it kind of conflicts what you do, and trying to figure out what path to take when you're thinking about money is really hard.
Yeah. So you were saying, you moved back to LA and you just started your business and kind of hit the ground running.
Yeah.
What was it that pushed you to, just go the entrepreneurial route as opposed to maybe working for someone else in the, industry, photography, whatever, the creative space? What kind of led you to just going out and doing it on your own?
I think a lot had to do with ego at that time. Yeah. I did really well in school, and I actually had a lot of friends that were hair and makeup artists. So when I was shooting fashion and beauty projects in school, I stood out quite a bit because there are a lot of students that didn't have those resources. So my portfolio was strong, and I had reviews from different artists that were working artists in the industry that would come to our school and take a look at our portfolios and be like, wow, you really have something. So I kind of came out of school with like a super inflated ego thinking, I'm going to make this my bitch. Like I'm going to make this happen. And on top of that, I had a lot of friends already in the industry. So when I came back to LA, projects just started popping up here and there, not necessarily money projects, but just creative projects that allowed me to put my education into a real life setting. So that education came really quickly. And then once I realized that my ego was not going to get me paid, I quickly changed the way that I did things, and learned how to stay friends with people that had businesses, and that eventually turned into word of mouth jobs.
Is that one of the biggest lessons for you, is networking, would you say?
Say again?
I said, is that one of the biggest lessons you've had to learn is how to be an effective networker? You said keeping friends in the right places. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of the people that listen to us are just, that's one of the struggles. It's a full-time job in and of itself. I mean, is that something you've seen?
It is. I wish I was a little bit more social, because I think I would benefit from it greatly. In the beginning, I was making friends left and right. I'm naturally antisocial because I don't know. I am an artist and I get all moody. So my social circle is very small, and I prefer it that way. But professionally, I know when to be eloquent, and I know how to talk business with people, whether they be male or female, and learning how to present a job to different characters has been I've perfected that craft. Let me say again. I've perfected the craft of talking to different creative individuals and learning how to build a business for them and with them. So I don't know, I have learned how to be a lot more professionally social, because I think there are two different skill sets, professionally and personally. And that's a really good question.
What is there like an example that you could give us when it comes to that kind of that transition when you're like, wow, like I see this like actually working?
Yeah, I think in this industry is all about work and play. So a lot of the clients that do put out jobs usually have parties that go along with it. Meetings, parties, late night drinks, dinners. And I think learning how to separate, give yourself time not to just do the job, but also kind of swoon that client is really important. And you have to take time out of your personal life in order to give that to your clients. So sometimes while I'm on a project, it feels like I'm dating my client. So we go out to drinks, we go out to dinners, I talk to them through text messages all the time. I give them advice about how to move forward with their business. If they have any late night questions, I'm there for them. So I have learned that each project comes with a little personal responsibility, and every client is different. They need different things in order to execute this job with you. And you kind of just have to be a therapist for them, and it works hand in hand.
And that's incredible advice. And it translates throughout every industry. I know that any job that I've had, I've always been in more of a business development capacity, partnerships, and now in sales. We got sirens.
There's been sirens out here all day.
Have there?
That's our sirens. Close
the
windows.
It is yours.
Can you close
Usually
that?
It'd be me.
I'm gonna retake that, what I was saying. So right in the middle there.
And action.
I'm gonna wait till Dre sits down.
Not yet.
Stuck to my shit.
How'd you? That was on your. Oh, you put. Yep.
Like, damn it.
This is spicy.
It is spicy.
All right, check this out. Well, that's really good advice, and it, honestly, it translates to every industry. I've worked in business development and in sales, and everyone I've spoken with, every entrepreneur, professional, it's like I always approach it like dating. I think that it's really important not to try to get them in bed the first night too. I think it's a long process of getting to know someone in a professional and a personal capacity, like you're saying, and it does translate. And it also makes it so that you're more real. You know, you're not just selling someone your services, and you are putting in the time to build a personal relationship, whether, you know, or not the motivation where it originally stemmed from. It does turn into a real, genuine working relationship. And it's really nice to have. And it's great to hear that you embrace that.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, the whole dating aspect of a client, it's so funny because the actual job is a very small portion of what I do. The rest of it, whether it be holding on those conversations, emailing at all hours of the night, being a support system for that client. Because at the end of the day, a majority of my clients are creatives, and they're just as lost as everyone else, despite how they might look online or in front of other people. So they want to be supported. They want, you know, a reinforcement with their creative concepts. And that's where I come in, where I tell them, okay, I love your product. How do we make it work? What do I need to do in order to make you feel like you're the rock star of the world? So that's where my dating skills come in. And I make sure that they get, you know, 90% of my attention whenever I'm working on an assignment with them. And once the project has been executed, I maybe might not talk to them for the next few months. Maybe we'll say hello here and there. And it's not a breakup, but it's just a way that projects needs to happen. And it's been fun, but usually when I'm dating a lot of people, it becomes challenging spreading myself too thin.
Do you like dating men or women better?
Let's just say I've dabbled in both.
Whoa. Hey. No, but seriously though, I mean, earlier you talked about like networking and sometimes whether or not you're communicating with a man or a woman, or I mean, like, you know, how have you seen it differ, and how do you think it affects your business, being that you're operating as a professional woman?
Oh, it's huge. I think it's one of my biggest challenges as a woman in this industry. It's a man-run business. The greatest photographers of all time are men. Not saying that there aren't amazing women ones as well, but the business is run very... It's run by men. And finding myself in that industry and finding my position in that industry has been really hard. But now with all the work that I've done and all the clients that I've done, I've gained my confidence and feel like I cannot be silenced by men nor by women. But working with men is a little bit more challenging. They question my creativity. They sometimes make me feel like I don't have enough experience.
Wow.
And I think that it's natural.
Tell us who they are. We'll fuck them up.
Well, prime example, I will walk into a Sammy's camera equipment store, any type of equipment store.
Man.
And if I'm not dressed, you know, in a black t-shirt with black jeans and combat boots and have, you know, an army or a knife in my back pocket, then I will not be serviced.
Jeez.
I've walked into camera stores and I am ignored until I am asked if there's anything that they can do to help me. So that is just a really small taste.
To be fair, I've shot a couple of films and I've had to go there a few times myself, and they're just not good service people.
It's so true.
So we're just throwing Sammy's under the bus right now.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't throw
shit
it.
service. It's great.
They're terrible all over.
There's just not a whole lot of options out there. They're like they're a dying breed.
But back to your question, I've had male clients. I mean, there's some male clients that I absolutely love. One of my best friends has had tons of businesses over the years that he's allowed me to be a part of, and I work really great with him. But a majority of the male clients kind of look at me a little bit of side eye. And if I try to battle my position or my pay, it feels, I don't know if I get more respected. I've had some instances where, you know, I've battled back and forth with a client about what I'm worth to the project or what my pay should be. And sometimes they do respect me more. They say, okay, you know, I see where you're coming from. Let's see how we can make this work. And then other times they try to throw it in my face of how much experience I might have or how much experience they have or the people that they've worked with in the past. So I do like working with females a little bit more, only because we're there to morally support one another, but females are also very overly emotional, sorry to say. And it's hard keeping professionalism with women more than men. With men, I can be very, not cutthroat, but very straight to the point. Here's job. This is all the logistics. I don't have to baby them as much. And with women, I hate to say the word baby because it has a very negative connotation, but women just need a little bit of an extra support. And I think I've practiced those tools a lot more. So it's easier for me. So I prefer it. But I don't necessarily think if I was on the next level, I'd want to give myself that much time to each client.
I'd be interested in seeing like if you were to like kind of flip the script on the from the male perspective on how you deal with the males and deal with them more like you do the women and see how they actually react, because like I think like there'd be a moment where they're really like taken back by something like that, but I think they would like pretty quickly come to your level,
right?
You know,
exactly. I feel like when they see, for in your case, that it's all about the art, and it's no longer, like you said, it was about ego at one point, but you're trying to do the best that you can for them. Like this is your baby, and I'm going to try and nurture this whole situation as if this is your actual baby, but to give you the best result. And I think that can kind of, at least for me, like I feel like I would respond to that a lot easier than the other way around. But I understand that there are people in the industry who just they come in the door and they want to battle, like they're like, I want to establish my dominance. Don't care who it is. Like, I've got more tenure than you. I've been in this longer. I've worked with this client and that client. And their whole mission is to shit on people while they get their product out, so it's
true.
But tough. Imagine a world where like you just try to dominate them, but like dominate them with love.
With love. It's like, that's all right, little baby. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take care of your art. All your experience is going to be perfectly maintained throughout this process. But guess what? I'm running the show.
I would like to run a social experiment and get you like a sound box and then have you be able to play two different roles. One is Karla and one is Karl. and literally see the difference in reaction. I think it'd be really interesting. I feel, honestly, I'm sitting here pretty pissed off because I feel like, we've all seen your work. It's phenomenal. We hear you. We know how professional you are. We know, how highly regarded you are and how much integrity you have. And it's concerning. If nothing else, it's saddening, but it's also really concerning that in this day and age, there's still such a severe gap between how you're treated and how you should be treated based on the fact that you're a woman.
And I will say the only other little tidbit is a majority of the males that I've worked with as clients have been the money men, not necessarily the creatives.
Not the
visionary. I deal with creatives, if I deal with the actual client who's creating, usually we vibe. I listen to their spiel about the concept. I look at their mood boards, and we kind of just get into sync with each other. But with the money men, or the people financially backing these projects, it's much more of a different perspective. They're not there to hear the creative spiel and hear me vibe with the client. They just want to know how much it's going to be, how fast we can get it done, and what's the best deal that you can give me. So maybe my description of my experiences with male versus females needs to be a little bit more drawn out. So the creative males that I have worked with are super sweet and great, and I wouldn't discriminate towards them, but it's the men with the money that actually make my job a little bit more challenging, because then I have to value myself and say, well, why do I have to give you a discount? Why do I have to hook you up? We're all here to ultimately get this product out. Here's what I would charge for my services. Can I meet you in the middle if you have any drawbacks? So that's a better explanation of how I would describe male versus female clients.
And I think, it's super important, and especially the role that you're playing now, because, you are helping people out, creatively and on the business end. I think it's important for, you know, your space and, you know, just the creative space in general, to have those types of people who understand the money side, but who also understand the artistic side, so that there isn't just someone who's coming in there saying, okay, let's figure out a way for it to make money and, you know, call it a day, but they don't know the difference, you know, between a good product and an unfinished product, or, you know, whatever. They just want, is it going to make money? You know, so I think it's important to have people like you in the industry to kind of take back those roles, you know, like where, hey, I will take care of your creative side and I will make sure that you're straight on the money side as well. And I think that's really important, and a platform that I think should be a lot bigger in the creative space, you know. So I think you're doing a great job so far, and we need to figure out a way to get that bigger.
Yeah. You know? That's such a good point though, Dre, because like, you know, as you're saying, these schools that thrive on helping you with your creativity are terrible from the business side. So you're never going to get the money men, as you know, as we can call them right now, having that same creativity either, because it's not like their business schools were talking about how to channel your inner creativity. I mean, it's equally inadequate. So there's going to be this huge gap, and it just sucks. But like Dre's saying, it's good that it's important that there are people taking the approach that you do and respecting both ends of the process, and really coming in and turning it into your own and making your own experience and becoming a professional creative in all aspects.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's the real magic with being an entrepreneur, is finding a balance between both worlds, and at the end of the day, creating really cool shit. So it's an ongoing battle, but I'm not disheartened by it at all. If honestly, I love the challenge. I love walking in and feeling like all eyes on me. Let's see how we can make this project work. And then still getting that client to sign a contract at the end of the day empowers me. So the challenges of being an entrepreneur are fun. Honestly, they keep me going. If it were easier, I'd be much less successful or much less creative. So it's fun.
Now you said that, you know, you just kind of you hit the ground running, you know, you started your business, and, do you have any mentors or role models that kind of help guide you when it comes to all this stuff, or you just kind of do it on your own?
I have a really great support circle. My friends just also happen to be in the industry. So we all just, you know, gather around in a group chat and have at it. But in the beginning of my career, I was still living with my ex at the time, and he was a director. So we both kind of vibed off each other. He worked on my projects, I worked on his projects, and that was my emotional support. But I don't necessarily think that I had a mentor. I wasn't quite active in school or art school either. There were a lot of students who had relationships with the teachers and, you know, would have coffee breaks with them or stay after class to have meetings with them. And that was never me. I don't do well in school. Like I hate classroom environments. So the moment that bell rung or that class was over, I was out of there and I was at home working on projects. So I didn't necessarily have a mentor. I just had a mentoring of different minds that eventually ended up being some of my greatest friends. So that I think played out way better than I imagined. But I wish I did have mentors, because maybe I would talk to them a little bit more about the business side of things, which is the biggest thing to learn as an entrepreneur. But after all these years, I wouldn't do anything any differently.
Absolutely. Do you have any do you have any other photographers, whether, you know, I don't care, like,
yeah,
do you have like anybody that, you know, that you look up to in terms of their work that are like, I guess, more
inspiration or something like that?
I mean,
like popular figures, I guess I'm saying.
Yeah, there are a ton of photographers that I would, you know, set aside pictures from or Pinterest them, Google their images, and they set the bar in the direction that I should be headed. I wish I could have spoken to them. I actually met a bunch of different photographers that were huge in the game, and I appreciated the work so much over the years because it had inspired me so much. And when I was in front of them, I had nothing to say. I met, there was a mutual friend of ours that worked as a producer for Inez and Vinood, and they do huge fashion and beauty campaigns. And I remember standing in front of them, and they were just really chill people. And I was like, hi, nice to meet you. And zero to say after that. No questions, nothing out of my mouth. I'm not even shell shocked because I've met some really big people, but I had nothing to pull from them. And I think I do really well watching and mimicking and learning from what the work they do. But personally, I have no idea what I would say to them.
Well, it could be anything from like from even a business perspective, though, you know, like, because you are an amazing creative, but, you know, and you've done really well for your business. But like you were saying before, like the networking portion of what you do, I think you're sidestepping all the network that you've already built. And
So true. I wish I would have networked with bigger people. If that's your question, I wish I would have been best friends with these people. But what I did learn from my biggest question to them now would be like, what keeps you inspired? Because I think that as artists, there is so much being fed to us in the media, in our cell phones, on social media, Facebook, you know, Pinterest, and everything, every source of creative outlet out there. We're fed these concepts and these trends. So how do you stay inspired by something that's already on trend? Usually you want to pull inspiration from different areas in order to create the new trends. And these big name photographers are doing just that. So if I could go back in time, maybe I would make a few more connections with the big names and learn how they stay inspired. I mean, do they smoke out all weekend? Do they watch old movies? Do they just sit in the park and look up at the sky? Like, I have no idea how these big names are creating these amazing trends that basically create a movement in our industry. And I think that's power. So I respect them because I can't wait to get to that point. And when I do, I hope that I have a really great answer to give someone to someday about how I stay inspired, because I still have yet to master that.
Well, it's incredible. And when you do, come back on and tell us about it.
Will do.
But you mentioned Pinterest, and you know, before we started recording, you were talking about, you know, how you're trying to make some steps to improving your social media presence and your website. Like what is behind that? What are you doing, and what do you think that you could be doing better?
Yeah, so I'm just on Instagram. That's where most of my movement is. And for the past few years, it's been, you know, 90% work, 10% personal. And as I've gotten older and kind of excelled at life and less at business, I've learned that I need to have a balance within the two. I think I'm at the age, I'm about to turn 32 at the end of the month. And I'm at that age where, you know, I'm living in my dream home, I'm married to my dream man, and I have a dream career. And I now have to find a balance between my attention, you know, I now have to find a balance between giving attention equally to all. And for the first 10 years of my career, I gave all my attention to my work. And my relationships with my parents and my ex-boyfriend, like, they all fell through the wayside. A few friends stayed here and there, but I gave so much attention to my work that I forgot to develop my soul. And at the end of the day, if my soul isn't balanced, I can't create art anymore. So now that I'm a little bit older, I understand that I need to separate both worlds.
Interesting.
So back to my social, like my Instagram, I've learned that I need to have a little bit more personality in there, not to show off. Like, Instagram is not to show off for me. It's to actually go back and remember these times that make me happy, because I do so many projects that once it's done, I'm on to the next thing. I have a very little chance to appreciate what I've done. So my Instagram is just a feed of things that have made me feel good at the time. So whether it be traveling, a new job, working with a new client, you know, creative little things that I've done here at home or around the world. And now that I'm trying to separate the two, I have my agency that I've had since 2011, but I've never done anything with. It's usually just been a way of like invoicing clients. It was a back end of all of the professional work that I've done. So Karla is the photographer, but Cotillion does all the production, retouching, invoicing, emailing, etc. And now I'm starting to develop a social side for Cotillion, because I think that could help me create a social voice and source of inspiration for not only people that are following me, but for myself. So it allows me to have just a few different Pinterest boards of inspiration, because personally, I'm inspired by so many different things versus professionally, I'm inspired by a vast amount of different items as well. Wow. I'm learning to give a little bit more attention to my professional side, since I've taken so much time away from it, but I'm kind of restarting my agency's Instagram. I'm redoing the website. I'm kind of rebranding myself. So everything that I do for my client, I'm doing it for myself. And it's actually really, really hard. And then for my personal side, I'm just going to have a little bit of work spotlights here and there. But for the most part, I'm just going to have really good memories on there.
That's great.
Really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And it's interesting, you know, because so you hear two things that you just said that speak really loudly. And one is balancing your soul, which means that you have to take that 90% professional and 10% personal, and you know, really balance that out. But then you're also in a point where within that professional environment, you actually realize that you need to build out a professional brand in addition to your personal brand. That,
correct.
You know what I'm saying? So it's really interesting that you, even though you're trying to balance, you're trying to lessen the 90 and increase the 10, at the same time, that 10 needs to actually, the 90 actually needs to speak louder. So I guess there's kind of a reprioritization going on.
Yeah. And it's kind of fun. I've been here before. I've tried this challenge before and I've failed because I'm usually, my work works in waves. So sometimes I'm really, really, really busy where I have no time to even get up from my computer or make dinner. And then there are times where we're really slow where I'm thinking, wow, you know, what if I never get a job again, et cetera, et cetera. So I learned that work isn't everything. I love my job. I am so lucky to do what I do. But at the end of the day, if the rest of my life isn't going great, there's nothing for me to fall back on when the job is slow. And vice versa, that if my personal life is doing really poorly at the moment or on a low tide, I then can shift my focus to my professional life and find sources of inspiration that keep my soul going. But it's very, very challenging to find a balance between both worlds, especially when my work lives on a digital platform and my personal life lives in real world. And I can literally I can sit on my computer for 10 hours a day, do all of the jobs that I need to do. And then maybe I'll get to kiss my husband goodnight at the end of the night, go to bed, and then do it all over the next day. So that's not healthy. It's part of the industry. It's the monster that I've created. It's fed me really well. I've done so many amazing things and I'm very grateful for what I do. But you know, if something happens to my husband tomorrow, I just spent 10 hours on my computer and it didn't feed me at the end of the day. So I have to learn what's valuable in my life. I have to learn, you know, as a woman entrepreneur, what does it all mean? What's the end goal? And at the end of the day, it's just to have a really great life. And in order to have a great life, you need to have a balance of everything. And that is my 32-year-old challenge.
Yeah. It reminds me of this quote that I've heard it in different variations my entire life, but one person said it, you know, just recently, and it really resonated with me. It was just like, you know, with all the things that we have going on, it's like, you know, with your business, with your band, with your personal, with family life, it's like, at the end of it, you know, if it's your business, if it's your life, like you're in the center of it and everything else is kind of on the outside. So it's really important to fill, like you said, your soul, you know, like fill your soul first and then fill everything else with the overflow. Like, you know, if you're, you know, the main source of everything, you know, like your family, your business, you kind of have to use the overflow. So fill your cup first and then everything that overflows, so I'm kind of trying to figure out that same thing as well, you know, because I thought that was a great quote. And it sounds like, you know, you're kind of in a transitional point right now, you know, and you're trying to find a way to fill up all those cups without running empty yourself. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I think it's very interesting just because I heard that and I thought that it was cool that you brought it up. So
that is really neat. And it, you know, another thing that I'm hearing a lot is well, I'm going to call it quantifying your calendar. And I don't know that anyone actually refers to it that way, but I think it's really important to be able to look at the activities that you have determined are worthy of your time on a daily basis and actually draw out percentages of what you're doing with your time. Be it sleep, be it exercise, be it eating. You know, you have the necessities, you have your wants, you have your professional, you have your personal. And I think that as as a very busy, very motivated entrepreneur, I mean, the more motivated you are, the more important this is, to be able to really understand, have a serious understanding of exactly where you invest your time in your life, and be able to either be happy with that or be able to improve upon it. And that's something that I see in a lot of professionals, a lot of people we speak to. They book personal time for themselves on their calendar, then they stick right to it. I mean, is that anything you do or anything you're interested in starting to do? Or
Yeah, the luxury of youth, when you're young, you don't care. You think you have all the time in the world. So I luckily started my career straight out of high school, and I was in my 20s when I got to establish my professional habits and really poor personal habits. But now that I'm a little bit older, I do value my personal time so much more. I have a really bad habit of keeping my phone in my hand at all times. And it's not just because I'm scrolling through Instagram or checking emails. It's just because it's a sense of, I'm out in the world. Maybe I'm on a date with my husband, but I still have, my business in my pocket. So one of the things I'm trying to learn now is to disconnect. And I think that's so important. Even when I'm at home, I'm always in front of a screen. I'm a very visual person. So if I'm working on a computer, I have my iPad right next to me, playing my favorite movies, getting inspired visually by lighting or music, et cetera, et cetera. And when I'm away from my office, I'm probably sitting in front of my phone out in the garden or in the patio. So this disconnection in this day and time is very, very hard. All my news is, through my phone, my emails, my conversations with my friends. I very rarely pick up the phone and call people, even my mom. I talk to my mom through text now. So this sense of disconnection is a necessity in order for me to connect with real life again. And that is a habit that I'm trying to put into play, is leaving everything at home. And even if I forget my cell phone at home, I kind of walk out the door feeling like, well, I won't need it today. Even if I need directions on how to get somewhere, I know my city, I'm going to get home no matter what. So it's very, very challenging. I've known a few people that actually turn off their Wi-Fi and leave their phones at home for a few weeks at a time. And it is the hardest thing to do because you feel like your whole life is going to fall apart. But despite all the social and the media being fed to us on our TV screens, I think there's a huge movement of people trying to be much more organic, whether what they're eating or what they're drinking or what they're seeing, learning how to cook in a better way. Like, I think that trend is all about being organic. So this habit of disconnection is kind of returning to our roots and realizing that there should be a time and a place for everything. And I think we've lost all sense of control over that. Yeah. And I need to learn. I want to master that.
And it's tough, because one of your value propositions, as you put, is that you're always available and you're there. You are moral and creative support for a lot of your clients. So that puts you in a really tough situation. But I guess that, as you progress throughout your career and with the place that you now hold, you've built the confidence to where you can actually look at this and see it differently. You know that, so if you didn't respond to a 10 p.m. text until 8 a.m. the next morning, this person's not going to abandon you because you've surpassed highly responsiveness as your only value proposition. You have something real to offer in your creativity and your vision and, the way you vibe with your clients. And, that's really good. It must be really empowering to get to the point where you're actually looking at this and not worried about losing business because you are prioritizing your own personal health, I guess.
Yeah. And I think it comes with age and confidence, not ego, but confidence in what you're worth. And I've learned that the end goal for my business is to get paid more for doing less. And usually when you start your business, you do way more and you get paid very less. So this transition period of, well, are you worth my time? Are you worth my time away from my home life and my husband? Like, how much is that worth to you versus how much is that worth to me? And for a long time, I realized everything was put on the back burner just for my job. And I feel like that, despite making me feel sad for my past self, I'm very grateful that I got the ability to do that, because very little entrepreneurs get the chance to give 90% of their attention to their work because they need to pay the bills at the end of the day and possibly have like a side job. I mean, there was like a 70% dropout rate at the school that I went to. And a majority of the people that I went to school with aren't even doing art anymore, you know? So I feel so fortunate that, wow, I got a chance to do exactly what I set out to do, work with amazing people, travel all over the world. I've been very, very fortunate, but I also sacrificed my soul for it in my 20s. And now that I'm in my early 30s, I have to see what it's worth. And I like knowing that I have so much work behind me that I can tell a client, well, actually, this is what I'm worth. So if you're not willing to pay me what I'm worth, then I'm not willing to give you my soul, my time away from my husband or my family. And I'm worried that if that mentality will affect my business. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm a really big believer in manifestation. And if you put good out there, good will come right back to you. And I've had an amazing set of clients that have helped me build the backbone that I have now. And it's been a fun little experiment, but I am a little worried about what my industry and what my career will look like for the next 10 years, because when I first started in my career, I set forth, you know, hundreds of goals. And now that I've executed all of them, I'm now at a standstill with myself, not knowing how to move forward. But if I don't put new habits into play, I won't get to where I need to be. So that is the main, I mean, if that's anything of what I'm going to say today, my biggest thing is I love being an entrepreneur. I love doing what I do, but I need to have a balance through it all. And as a woman, I think it's really challenging to master the concept of being an entrepreneur and still have a side life. I don't even know if I said that right.
No, yeah, for sure.
You couldn't have said it wrong.
Now, you know, that's absolutely incredible. But you say that you don't know, you're worried about what it's going to look like 10 years from now.
Yeah, I think it's because the industry changes so quickly. I mean, social media changed everything in the matter of years. Everything that I learned went out the window. Wow. Everything that I prepared for went out the window. I mean, our education stemmed on the fact that you have to do cold calling, sending out postcards, sending out emailers, you know, meeting people with your portfolio, and now everything's online. So despite it sounding easier, my mentality was built on an analog business strategy. And now, you know, when social media kind of blew up in your face, I felt like, wow, I have no idea how to be in the spotlight, because everyone, you know, has their own cover of a magazine on Instagram. It's like you're famous in your own way. And that's not a comfortable place to be at for a lot of artists. You know, artists are usually a little bit more guarded. There are some that love to be in the spotlight, and that usually comes with really great pay. But even digital influencers, as they call them nowadays, they have to have a picture perfect life on Instagram, and that's exhausting. I mean, I work with one of my biggest clients, Chriselle Lim. Every part of her life is on Instagram. And I feel for her, not in a bad way, because I think she's an amazing woman and entrepreneur, but sometimes I wish she did have the luxury of a little bit of privacy, but you can't do that anymore. So I need to take a page out of her book and learn how to be a little bit more transparent to people that do follow me, and stop hiding and having secrets about how I do work. Like, and at the end of the day, I can teach everything to anyone. I can teach everything that I know to someone, but they still won't do what I do. And that's because it's my mind, and I can't give you a piece of my mind and where my inspiration, I pull inspiration from. But everything's changed. Going back to what you said, it's the industry. I feel really bad for photographers that are starting the industry right now, because despite it being logistically easier, you can pick up a really great camera and you're walking into Best Buy and buy the best camera. But how do you inspire your soul if you didn't study art history or learn where all of these trends really came from? Because history repeats itself. So everything that's popular now was popular back in the day as well.
Yeah. And I was going to just say too that, you know, it's definitely a challenge. Like right now, we're in the middle of this digital revolution. We're in the middle of gig economies taking over. We're in the middle of all of us in this room, millennials that are going to be making up 50% of the workforce in 2020. Like we're in the middle of some really momentous things that are changing business as a whole. But I guess the cool thing is, as a creative, you're going to be one of the first people to adapt to the new and even create it, if you will. You know, how boring would it be if art never changed, if analog was still, you know, predominant? I mean, it's interesting in the fact that, you know, you said it earlier too, if it were easy, you'd get bored of it. So this is probably just another challenge that you, being your awesome creative self, are going to have to, and probably do, embrace, overcome, and prove successful throughout.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the great thing about being a creative. And I'm sitting here and it kind of came to me that, you know, we were talking the other day about it taking successful people 3.87 failures before they've hit that success. And I was thinking back to all of the people that really say that they are the creatives and that are within that typical creative industry. They don't fail the same way that people in typical business industries fail. I think that creative failures are more personal and are more internalized.
Yeah, because your art is subjective, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like you said, you had an ex-boyfriend. I'm just gonna exemplary. You had an ex-boyfriend that the relationship is a good example of a failure that took you to a place where you needed to be, and it included some learning. You said that, you know, in the past you've tried to level out and try to have a balance of your soul, but you literally said, I failed at it. But the learning that you gained was the importance of where you need to be in this next approach. So it's really interesting, and I had to bring it up because it's so cool to see that. Man, you put it really well. What did you just say?
Art is subjective.
Yeah, art is subjective. I actually thought you said the heart is subjective, which I was like, damn, that is deep.
Putting it on a t-shirt.
Yeah. but so like it really is, you have your full heart into your profession. And so I think that your failures are genuine and direct and internalized learning that you're going to keep progressing from. It's crazy.
So true, because we are artists are their own biggest critics. Because I have tons of friends who are like, oh my God, your work's amazing. And I'm like, not because I want to hear it, you know, not because I don't believe it, but I'm struggling with it. Art is a very personal thing, like you said, and I struggle with putting it out there because it's a little part of myself. But in order to be successful in this day and age, I need to be comfortable with putting it out there, because that's the only way that people are going to know about me, about my work, and how powerful my experience can be for their business.
Yeah, in the words of the great Erykah Badu, keep in mind I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. I feel that way every day. Sensitive about my shit.
You know, we're getting pretty close to an hour here, but I wanna kind of take a couple of minutes and try and give, because the majority of our audience, you know, some of them are photographers, most of them are not. But you do have some kind of unique knowledge and you have a special skill set that is highly valuable for any industry right now, because of, you know, just the images and, you know, that, you know, Instagram, Pinterest, everything needs to be
content in general,
beautiful and amazing. Like, what are some things actionable things that you know, a standard entrepreneur that, you know, whatever industry that it might be in, how can they implement some of the skill sets that you have, or what can they do to improve their brand and improve, you know, their
call Karla. That's what they do.
I've actually answered this question within my social circle quite a bit. So I think the biggest challenge is having aesthetic. And aesthetic is not something that you can buy. It's something that you learn. And having a really great aesthetic online is the easiest and the most straightforward way in order to build your brand. So there are tons of social media content that's all over the place. You post a picture of your dinner, your dog, a business meeting, the park, the trees, but at the end of the day, that's not really selling anything. So for entrepreneurs that are trying to get a little bit more streamlined with their aesthetic, pull some inspiration, save inspiration, look up different artists in which you like their feed, the colors that they use, the fonts that they use, the way that they lay out their images, and copy it. I am a big believer in mimicking things that I love. And that is where I pull my inspiration from. I save hundreds, if not thousands of images a week that really speak to me. And then at the end of the week, I look at everything and I'm like, okay, what am I going to pull away from this? What can I mimic? What work do I have similar to this aesthetic that will put my voice out there this week or the next? So for entrepreneurs that are trying is, clear your feed, remove everything that's not important to you and start fresh. Because I think a clean slate is quite powerful. Nowadays, everything is saved. I mean, I have Facebook memories popping up from when I was 23 years old and I gag because it is so embarrassing. So doing a social cleanup, I think, is a really easy way to start. And then pulling aesthetic and inspiration from other artists or people that you follow on Instagram is great. And I mean, I've heard that websites aren't that important anymore, but my websites are for me. I put things up there to show the substantial amount of work that I've worked so hard to create over the years. So having a website is really great, and having really simple typography or finding a logo that means something to you is a great start. Sticking with the same filters is really important. And all of these little lessons I've learned from different people that are successful in the social media world. And having a balance between personal and professional, I think, is really great too. So, I mean, even your Instagram, I saw from the beginning, I saw what you guys started off with, and now you guys have a trio vibe going. So kudos to you. I love it.
Chris is a mastermind of Instagram.
Crushing it, right?
The thing is, this is the 5 o'clock hustle. We are not, we don't have our own thriving, businesses like you do. We're all working on them, and we're doing this podcast and everything. But, we have, like you, we're trying to divide our time up to where we can, follow our passions and start businesses while also maintaining our other lives with wives and kids and our 9-to-5 jobs. So everything I try to do for our show, I'm always trying to find ways to streamline stuff. So it's not necessarily from an artistic standpoint, but I made like a Photoshop. I
mean, that's a start. Yeah, I mean, you had to have seen it somewhere, found inspiration that looks similar, and that was your start. So don't don't knock off your credit, because you're doing it.
Yeah, Chris is humble to a fault.
Yeah, to a huge
all
fault.
great artists are.
I love that. Well, I just thought of the title for this episode.
Oh yeah. Well,
okay, it's going to be a working title now, but here's what I have. Embrace challenge, clear your feed, and balance your soul with Karla Ticas.
Hey,
I dig that. I dig that a lot. I dig that. So, Karla, go ahead, Chris.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. So, we've been talking about, you transitioning and trying to feel more of your personal life and just balance everything. But so in your professional life, with whatever percent that takes hold, what do you see? Like, what do you predict is kind of next for you? Do you see yourself kind of doing, the same thing that you've been doing, or are you going to try and transition to like a different role, maybe more of a mentor role, because you've experienced so much in this industry and you have so much value to add? So do you see yourself transitioning into a different role? Do you see yourself doing a little more of already what you're doing? What do you see next for yourself?
Yeah. So I've, this past year, I've gotten really great opportunities to kind of change the way that I do things. And for a really long time, the only reason that I even started this agency, in which is an umbrella company of all my services, I studied to be a photographer, commercial advertising. And a majority of my clients I would meet to take photos of their product or their company. And then they would tell me, hey, I need a website. Hey, do you know someone that does logo design? Hey, I need graphic work. And I actually had all those skill sets because I learned it in school. Mm-hmm. So this agency became an umbrella to kind of protect my Karla Ticas photo professional life away and do all the rest of the services under cotillion so it wouldn't water down my expertise. Now, coming back to your question, let's see.
You don't have to give away all the ingredients.
No. Ask it. I felt really inspired when you asked it. Well, you just asked the last little bit one more time.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, with the way that you're transitioning now, and you're trying to reprioritize your professional and your personal life. Where do you see yourself going? Do you see, are you taking on more of a mentor role, or teaching other people to learn the things that you've learned in your experience, or do you see yourself kind of doing the same thing? Are you transitioning to a different form of media, art, whatever?
So the reason why I said what I said is because I have a few clients that I've known over the years, and I've done all sorts of services for them. Well, when I grow, my clients grow, and luckily for me, my clients love me. Nice. So I've had the opportunity to work alongside a lot of different clients that kind of are developing mini projects on the side. So I do, photography, creative direction, art direction. I've done set design. I've done consulting, graphic web, et cetera, et cetera. So this one client in particular has known me for almost a decade now, and she's actually starting up a studio. And she's like, hey, would you want to come on and be a creative director of the studio?
That's amazing.
And I looked at her and I was like, sure. And usually I would be like, no, I already have my own shit going on. Why would I want to do this? But luckily for me, this client has an amazing sense of leadership. And for a long time, I wanted to be my own leader. I thought it was a sense of pride. I didn't want to be working for anybody. I wanted to always work for myself. But as life goes, I realized that leadership is an amazing thing. Yeah. And she has access to a lot of great clients that I normally wouldn't have. So I think my next chapter in my life is still doing what I do on the side, because I will never stop doing that hustle.
Of course.
But this new side hustle will be a creative director for a studio based in Los Angeles. So it'll be a photo studio as well as a production house. And I can't wait to have my hands on new clients, because as much as I love my clients, I want to be challenged a little bit more. I want to do something a little bit different. So now with the studio, inspiration. Yeah. So one of the few projects that I worked on with them was for Valentino. I did something for them over the holiday, and we did a social media spread, and it was on a whim. Like, they called me from one day to the next, and they're like, hey, we need help on this project. Can you come in? And I was like, yeah, I'll be there in a few hours. And then it turned into this thing, an amazing project where, Valentino posted 12 of our images on their social media. And that was great. Huge. Yeah. And, it's not in a magazine, but magazines don't even weigh as much as they used to anymore. So that was kind of the start into where this creative direction headed, this position as creative director headed. And then there's the second assignment was something for a clothing line called JOA, and it launched in Nordstrom, and that was another huge thing. So I'm this next chapter, the next few years of my life will be dedicated to kind of blowing up the studio. And I'm very excited for it, because we're still in the talks of getting, management, agents and all that. But the next year, I think I'll have a lot more movement with them. And on top of that, this position I've traveled all over the world with my job, but just recently I was in Shanghai and New York, and we're headed up to the Hamptons in a few weeks.
That's
so
amazing.
I'll text you guys from there.
Totally. Yeah.
If you want to do a follow up on the podcast, we'll come to the Hamptons.
We can come.
No, but
so
that's
that'll
great.
be my next project.
That's great. Congratulations on that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Yeah, and we're gonna wrap this up now, but I just have to say, I love photography for a very long time. It kind of got me into a lot of other types of art as well. I'm not very good at it, but
hey, that's artistic objection.
Yeah, exactly. But there's this, and I feel like you would be the perfect person to pull this off. And there's this one oil painting of King Louis that I always wanted to reenact. Not myself. I wanted to be the photographer for it. But King Louis, he was famous for wearing high heels, and he wore this big black wig, and it's this like just amazing set with this all the fleur-de-lis everywhere, and he's just standing there with his tights on, and he's lifting up his cape, and you just see his high heels there. And I was like, wow, like I wish I could make that like some amazing fashion photography thing. And I was like, if I ever did any kind of fashion thing, then that would be the photo that I would want to make. But you should totally do that. I feel like it totally fits your style too.
I love that over-the-top Renaissance art. I think that when I was really young, my dad took me to Paris, and we ended up going to Versailles, and it changed my life.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in the perfect natural lighting. So I think that example that you just described actually speaks volumes to me. I love it.
I think he was actually asking if you would photograph him as King Louis.
Yeah, I got that too, but I was working around it.
He's got the heels, right?
I got the heels and the wig. Dean's got the wig. I got the heels.
We'll explain that in a different episode.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's we've hung out with you so many times, and like this is the first time I've ever had the opportunity to talk to you about this kind of stuff. And
I rarely talk about what I do. AJ seems, every time we meet someone new, he brags about. I mean, I think it's so sweet, but I have such a hard time talking about what I do and why I do it. So it's been a really nice platform to do it on.
Well, you did it for an hour, so congratulations.
You made it.
So tell our audience where they can find you, where they can see your stuff, and your website and everything.
Yeah, so my social media handle is Karla Ticas across all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest. And then I'm trying to build my agency's Instagram, and that's just Cotillion Agency on Instagram.
Awesome. And you can find those links, ladies and gentlemen, on our website at 5o'clockhustle.com/Karla. And yeah, that's basically it. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Karla.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was really nice.
That's really sweet. I really appreciate it, guys.